Let's head over to Kyiv now, where Anna Foster from our partners at the BBC is standing by. Anna, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. President Putin has ordered troops to not storm the industrial zone in Mariupol, where Ukrainian fighters are holed up, instead offering to let them to surrender. What more do we know about the situation there?
That's right. This seems to mark a change of tactic. For the last few days, Russia has been offering in the mornings here, Ukraine time, what it calls a surrender window. And it has told those fighters that if they come out waving the white flag, that they will be allowed to leave alive and they will be treated with their rights under the Geneva Convention. But it's notable that all of those offers so far have been ignored by those remaining Ukrainian fighters. Instead, they've asked to be extracted by a third country, by world leaders who they say they want to come and rescue them and take them to a place of safety. But just in the last few hours, we hear from Vladimir Putin that instead of storming that steelworks, his plan now is to barricade it, is to have a siege. He said to not allow even a fly to escape. Now, this would continue to take up a lot of Russian effort, a lot of Russian troops, which they are very keen to move towards the east. And it shows you really how important, how vital gaining control of Mariupol is to Russia's strategy in Ukraine.
Anna, the Red Cross described the scene in Mariupol as apocalyptic. There is an estimated 100,000 people still left there in Mariupol. Necessities are scarce. What do we know about the evacuation efforts?
It is almost impossible to imagine what those people must be going through and have been for weeks. Mariupol has had no power for well over a month now. Things like food and water, medicines are practically impossible to get hold of. And they're living, sheltering, hiding for their lives in a city that has been razed to the ground. What has become increasingly difficult is finding a way to bring them out. Now, yesterday, we heard there was some hope of an evacuation corridor being established. We hadn't had one for around 4 or 5 weeks, but the hope started to wane when we heard that they'd wanted to take out 6,000 people, but by the end of the day, they'd only managed to take 4 buses of people out of Mariupol. They say they'll try again today, but when you consider, as you say, there is still more than 100,000 people trapped there, these numbers are so small compared to the numbers of people who need to be rescued from that besieged city.
4 buses, certainly not a lot of people. Curious to see what happens today. And as we heard in the package we played just before we spoke with you, Putin test launched a new intercontinental ballistic missile yesterday. Are there fears that Russia has become too isolated?
That's a very interesting question because, of course, Russia has become increasingly isolated through the use of international sanctions as this conflict has gone on. Really that attempt to strangle the Russian economy, to try and make it increasingly difficult for Russia to trade with the world, to sell its products with the world, to fly its airplanes around the world. And we see, as you say, the test launch of this missile. Now, the Pentagon has made it very clear that they did know that this was going to happen, that Russia observed what they needed to do, and they told them that this was going to happen. So it wasn't an inflammatory act in that respect. But as you say, it does mark perhaps an effort by Russia to show their might ahead of Victory Day on the 9th of May. That is the moment that people think that Vladimir Putin is projecting towards. He wants to be able to show some real gains, some real successes, so he can save face in Russia before that important day for the country.
And we are hearing reports, of course, that Vladimir Putin is announcing this victory on Russian TV. Anna, thank you so much.